Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to speculate wildly about who could be Hero 27. Now there was a recent interview with Jeff Kaplan at the Fun and Serious Game Festival in Spain where Jeff Kaplan let slip that we might have already seen Hero 27 in some of the game's surrounding media. So that means comics or trailers or even animated shorts. Jeff's actual words were that Hero 27 could be a surprise that perhaps has been hinted at. So I've spent a hilariously long amount of time going back through the comics and all the other ancillary media, and there are quite a few characters that Jeff could be referring to. Now quite a few of these characters aren't so much hinted at but directly shown, and that kind of makes me think twice about their viability for the next hero, given Jeff's words about the next hero possibly being hinted at, which suggests to me the clues are a little bit more subtle, kind of like Moira in the Masquerade comic, which nobody picked up on. But I'll just go through this list quite quickly, as it could easily turn out to be one of them. Speaking of the Masquerade comic, when that was released, everyone made quite a big deal about the Omnic Maximilian. He's kind of like a Talon financier. His role in the comic made me think he was like Le Chiffre from Casino Royale. There's obviously a load of James Bond references in that comic, what with Doomfist's white suit, and the setting being Monaco in the first place. Now in terms of what kind of hero Maximilian would likely be, Le Chiffre from Casino Royale is an expert mathematician. It's partly why he's so good at poker. How would that translate into a hero's kit for Overwatch? Well, if Blizzard wanted to go really out there, they could do something quite off the wall and make this shadowy figure maybe have influence over people's spawns or their spawn timers, a quiet puppet master in the background pulling all the strings. I have no idea how practical that would be. I'm just thinking out loud, cut me some slack. Maybe he could be a new Talon builder hero. We haven't had a new builder outside of Torb and Symmetra since the beginning of the game. Either way, I think his design's cool. Next up is Bridget, who's Torbjorn's daughter, and she was featured in the Dragons comic and the Rhine cinematic released during BlizzCon. Now this is one of those examples where I think she's been featured a little bit too front and center to really be considered hinted at. She's very obviously there in the lore as a support character for Reinhardt. She helps fix his armor, and in the comic it's hinted that they're driving around together trying to upkeep Overwatch's legacy. Now she has a similar cog tattoo to her father, and she is an engineer, so if she was going to be in the game, my guess is that she would be a builder. What she'd build exactly and how her kit would work, nobody really knows. Your guess is as good as mine, but it would have to be different enough to separate her out from her father. Having two generations of a family as heroes in Overwatch isn't an alien concept. We already have Anna and Fara, but their kits are wildly different. Would Bridget the hero work very differently to the engineer archetype that she's currently being portrayed as? I don't think it's massively unlikely that she makes her way into the game at some point, but I do think her chances of being Hero 27 are quite low. Now I've said that, watch her be just that. Next up is another character who's linked to Torbjorn, and that's Sven. Sven features in Torbjorn's Destroyer comic, and the story centers around one of Torbjorn's former teammates going a little bit rogue and taking charge of a Titan, which was a very particular form of mech. Now Torbjorn actually had a hand in designing these Titans, and they were originally meant to build cities, but when the Omnic crisis broke out, the Omnics repurposed them and turned them into these massive super weapons. In the comic, Sven has taken control of one and has taken it upon himself to basically destroy a rogue state, a state that's a dictatorship and one that threatens to unbalance the global peace. Now the interplay between Torbjorn and Sven is quite interesting. They hint that they used to work together and that Sven thought that they made a good team, but Torb didn't share those feelings, not at all, feeling that Sven was always too ready to cut corners and cheat, and that the ends justified the means. A character like Sven's is quite interesting. Someone who wants to do a good thing but for very bad reasons is a similar theme to some other characters. Moira's a great example, and when their ambitions are curtailed by Overwatch or a character from Overwatch, they tend to turn to the dark side. So could Sven be a new Talon builder, like an evil Torbjorn? Would Sven build mechs to do his bidding, acting like a sort of summoner? That's something we don't have in the game currently, and it's something I'm sure a lot of people would have a lot of fun playing. Again, he hasn't really been hinted at. He was quite a prominent feature of a comic, but this comic is actually from quite a long time ago, so I guess Jeff could be talking about him. Moving on, I'm going to talk about Link 17, which is an Omnic that Zarya is forced to work with in an attempt to track down Sombra from her comic. Now again, Link 17 gets a fair amount of screen time in this comic, and I feel like the character's really there to play off Zarya and her preconceptions about Omnics and how she feels about them, and in that way she feels like a thematic vehicle for Zarya to do some growing. I don't know how likely likely it is that Link 17 is going to be a hero in the game. We already have a hacker in the form of Sombra. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, it certainly isn't, especially considering the fact that Xayah saves Link 17 at the end of that comic. But with Sombra's own motivations and morality being a little bit up in the air and not as cut and dry as another talent agent, I do feel that another hacker would slightly tread on her toes, not only in terms of her kit, but thematically as well. One character that I'm sure a lot of the community would welcome as a hero in Overwatch is the Junker Queen. The image of her and her character design is very, very cool, and her being a hero is more in line with someone being hinted at instead of directly shown. What her actual kit would be is anybody's guess. In the only picture we can see of her, it does appear that she's holding some sort of melee weapon. It looks like some sort of giant axe. If she were to be a melee hero, would she be a hybrid kind of like Doomfist and Reinhardt smashed together? I find myself not too concerned though, because I'm just a really big fan of her visual design. I like the war paint, I like the shoulder pads, I like everything. For the next two characters, we're actually going to take a trip back to Horizon Lunar Colony. Now, I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent. By no means is what I'm about to say likely, I just think it would be really, really cool. What if Dr. Winston, the human scientist who raised our Winston from the game, didn't die in the airlock quote-unquote accident? There is that still from the secret room on Horizon, with all the human scientist spacesuits still in place, yet the one bay that's named Winston doesn't have its spacesuit present. And in fact, in those internal messages, which were released by Blizzard to help fill in the backstory, Dr. Winston is the first to respond to the airlock not working properly. Now, I know that there's some cynics watching this video who will say, but wait, isn't there an easy explanation as to why Winston's spacesuit is missing? Our favourite guerrilla scientist took his namesake's spacesuit and escaped to Earth. Well, that's perfectly possible, but I think it would be way more interesting and compelling to see a reunion between mentor and student. Now, obviously that might get a bit confusing because there'd be two characters called Winston, but if the human doctor did survive, he could simply go by his first name or another option. There's a part of me that really hopes this is the case, and there's a lot of scope to tell a lot of very interesting stories about how he learned to survive on his own, and whether or not he found out who sabotaged the airlock in the first place. Which leads me, very neatly, onto another possible candidate for Hero 27, and that's the infamous case of Hammond. Now, before Horizon was released as a map, and in fact before Doomfist was released as a hero, there was a time where it was heavily rumoured that Hammond would actually be the next hero, and the reason for that is this image here, where it shows all the rest of the Lunar Colony test subjects being tracked by the internal computer, but the ones not found were Specimen 8, Hammond, and Specimen 28, Winston. Now, we know that Winston made it to Earth, and the fact that Hammond isn't found by the Horizon computer means that he either went out the airlock, or he escaped, or he's hiding. Now, to me, this is much more in line with what Jeff was hinting at. We have seen and heard of Hammond before, but our attention has gone elsewhere as the game has moved on. There's a huge part of me that wants Hammond to be Hero 27, and I feel that way because I think there's a lot of scope for amazing storytelling here. Is Hammond evil? Did he deliberately sabotage the airlock? Or was it simply an accident and he's misunderstood and decided to run away because of the shame? Either way, I'd be super pumped if Hammond made it into the game. Now, we know that Hammond was actually a much smaller primate to Winston, so his kit would be very different. Perhaps the core of it being massive agility, super fast attacks. Wall climbing could be a feature, or maybe Hammond could easily jump from ledge to ledge and cover a lot of ground really quickly. I think he'd be awesome, and I'm kind of crossing my fingers and hoping that it is him. Next, I'm going to talk about a few characters who are definitely visible in the comics, but who I would consider a long shot to be the next hero, and the first is Athena. Our Athena, the good Overwatch AI god program. Always there, right under our noses. We think that she's limited in her capacity because she doesn't have a body. Well, what if Winston built one for her? Or if she built one herself? She's ever present in the game. She's the voice that talks to you at the beginning of a match and counts down for you. And I suppose there is quite a lot of poetry to having the new hero be someone who's been there the whole time, but one that we haven't paid a massive amount of attention to. She could be a builder, she could be a summoner, she could be a damage hero, she could be anything that they wanted to make her. The question I want answering is, if she is a hero, who's going to announce our matches? Next up are some extreme long shots, so bear with me. The first one is actually Fara's dad, who we do know is alive because we see Fara having dinner with him in the Reflections comic. Now, we've never heard of Fara's father being being a warrior, or someone that was involved in Overwatch in its prime. Just about the only thing we do know about him is that it's from his side of the family that Fara gets her Native American heritage from. Having a complete family be heroes in Overwatch would be a first. Like I said, it's a huge long shot. Another massive long shot comes from the same page of the same comic. In the top right, Anna and Soldier 76 are seen to be together in a room, but a little bit sad and unhappy and rueful because they're not with their families at Christmas time. Now Anna is actually mournfully looking out a window, but Jack Morrison's actually looking at a photograph, and it looks to be a photograph of him and another significantly younger character. It's actually hard to make out whether it's a male or a female, but to me, this looks like a rebellious son or daughter. Now we've never heard that Soldier 76, Jack Morrison, has any children, but everything that Blizzard shows us has a reason for it. This isn't just put there accidentally. This is exactly the kind of hint that Jeff may be talking about. Something unseen, something that people haven't picked apart yet. And because we've never heard about it before, it would come totally out of the blue and be really, really exciting. Or at least I think it would be exciting. Soldier has that voice line, "I'm not your father." Well, what if it turns out he is somebody's father? In fact, he's Hero 27's father. I can't be alone in thinking this would be a hilarious idea, right guys? Guys? No? Just me then? Okay, you guys are no fun. I want awkward sitcom father and son dialogue voice lines. That's what I really want. To be totally honest, I'd be happy with any of the characters in this video, or even ones that we haven't mentioned or haven't even dreamt up yet. We just want more heroes, Jeff. And I guess half the fun is in trying to figure out what the next one will be. Let me know who you think Hero 27 is going to be down in the comment section below. Do you think I've touched on a likely candidate, or do you think I'm way off base? I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.